Bees are just fascinating animals. They're completely different from humans. They're cold-blooded, they've got totally different nerve systems, and they breathe totally differently. They're just totally alien to us. It's amazing that we can coexist with these creatures.
There's over 20,000 different species of bee worldwide, and most of these are what we call solitary bees. So they live in the ground or in cavities in plant stems, for example, and not in hives or nests like the more familiar honeybees and bumblebees.
There are even bees that are not interested in flowers. Some bees are also meat eaters. The vulture bee, that's what its name is, and it feeds on decaying chicken. So there's an extraordinary diversity of bees. The very famous, popular one is the honeybee, which lives in very large societies, 40 to 50,000 individuals. And then there's a huge variety of solitary bees, which are just as important pollinators and animals as the honeybee, and which are much less well known to the public.
Bumblebees, they will forage at much lower temperatures compared to solitary bees and honeybees because they've got that sort of thick sort of jacket that they wear that they can get about, so they're quite padded and they're nice and warm.
Unlike humans, bees breathe through holes in the body called spiracles, so they'll open the spiracles up and they'll draw the oxygen in, and it's like a bellows sort of movement, whereas we obviously breathe through our mouths and our lungs, so totally different way of doing things.
Animal communication usually is restricted to the inner worlds that they perceive and what they want to express. The honeybee, for instance, is one of the rare animals we know of which is capable of communicating information that's completely outside their hive and outside the realm of their feelings. So honeybees communicate the location, the distance, and the quality of food resources they have found outside.
Bees actually have 4 wings, so 2 pairs, and these beat at around 230 times per second. Sometimes you might see a bee that appears to be surfing on a piece of green disc, and this is actually a leafcutter bee. We have several species of these in the UK. What they do, the female leafcutter will go to a tree and cut out a semicircle piece of leaf, and she'll take this back to the nest where she'll create the nest cells in her nest out of the pieces of leaf.
There's 2 species of bumblebee that live in the Arctic. There's a species called Bombus polaris that has to hibernate for 9 months because it's so cold. It can only be active for 3 months of the year.
Bees are really clever in that if they're sick or they need treatment for a disease they have, they will actually go to plants that they don't normally visit and they'll get drugs from those plants. A great example of this is heather, so Kaluna, from which bees get kaolin, which they use to treat microorganisms in their gut. And so beyond just what they need from flowers to eat and feed on, they also use nature almost like an apothecary's garden from medieval times. And many of those are medicines that we've discovered thousands of years after the bees and that we now use to keep ourselves healthy as well.
Honeybees, the male bees don't do any work. The queen lays all the eggs, up to 2,000 eggs a day between May and June, and the males don't do any work. Their purpose is to mate, and the females are all the workers, and they do every last bit of work that is needed inside their nest.